Hi there, I'm Tony Lee, and this is Hot Flasher, your daily menopause podcast that serves up fresh news, research, and wellness tips. I've built a daily news pipeline to find the latest on women's health and menopause research. Allow me to introduce my co-host Nykki, who handles the headlines. Take it away, Nykki.
Thanks, Tony. We've got a lot to chew on today. So, the menopause cocktail. If you've spent any time on menopause TikTok or Reddit recently, you've probably seen it. The basic premise is this. Take an antihistamine, cetirizine, that's your generic Zyrtec, and combine it with famotidine, which is your generic Pepcid, an acid reflux medication. The claim is that together they reduce hot flashes. Some women are swearing by it, and honestly, I'm not going to just roll my eyes at this one because there is actual biology underneath it worth looking at. Histamine isn't just the thing that makes your eyes water in spring. It plays a role in body temperature regulation. The hypothalamus, which is your brain's thermostat, has histamine receptors. And there's a line of thinking that as estrogen declines, histamine signaling gets dysregulated, which may contribute to that classic hot flash cascade. Famotidine is an H2 blocker, which targets a different set of histamine receptors than the H1 blockers like cetirizine. So, the idea behind combining them is that you're hitting the histamine pathway from two angles. That's not a crazy idea. It's actually a coherent hypothesis. The Healthline piece covers this, and they're appropriately measured about it. The problem is that we don't yet have robust, well-powered clinical trials specifically testing this combination in menopausal women for vasomotor symptoms. What exists is smaller, more preliminary, some case reports, some mechanistic reasoning, some extrapolation from antihistamine use in other contexts. It's a signal. It's not a verdict. My actual take, I find the histamine thermoregulation connection genuinely plausible and worth watching. If researchers run a real trial on this and it holds up, I'll be the first to say so. But right now, women are self-dosing off social media at doses they've reverse engineered from comment threads. And that's where it gets shaky. Both of these medications are available over the counter and are generally considered safe for most people, but generally safe and safe for you specifically with your specific history and your specific other medications are two different things. This is a conversation to have with a doctor, not a protocol to crowdsource from Reddit, which I say as someone who deeply respects what our menopause community figures out on its own. They are frequently ahead of the clinical literature, but the gap between promising hypothesis and this is what you should take matters, okay? New NAMS journal study published in the journal Menopause, and the conclusion is one I want to spend some time on because it runs counter to a very common piece of advice. The study looked at cardiorespiratory fitness and moderate-to-vigorous physical activity, MVPA, and whether those factors were independently associated with severe vasomotor symptoms, meaning severe hot flashes and night sweats. And the finding, they weren't. Women with higher cardiorespiratory fitness and more vigorous physical activity did not have significantly fewer severe vasomotor symptoms than women who were less fit or less active. Now, I want to be precise about what this does and doesn't mean, because it matters. This study is about severe vasomotor symptoms specifically. It is not saying exercise is useless. Exercise in midlife and beyond has an extremely strong evidence base for bone density, cardiovascular health, mood, metabolic function, sleep quality, cognitive health. The list is long. None of that is in question. What this paper is saying is that if your goal is specifically to reduce the severity of hot flashes, getting fitter may not be the lever you're hoping it is. And I think that's actually an important thing to say out loud, because just exercise more has become a kind of reflex response to almost every menopause complaint. And it puts the burden entirely on the woman, while sometimes steering her away from treatments that might actually work for this specific symptom. Hot flashes have a primary hormonal driver, dropping estrogen, and while lifestyle absolutely matters for overall well-being, it doesn't appear to directly counteract the thermoregulatory disruption at the root of severe VMS. I also want to note, this is one study, and study design matters. I'd want to understand more about how fitness was measured, the sample size and demographics, whether it was longitudinal or cross-sectional. The kind of context your doctor would look for on a clinical evidence tool like open evidence before making treatment decisions. That said, this comes from the NAMS journal. That's the North American Menopause Society, so it's not a fringe publication. It's worth taking seriously. And the conclusion aligns with what some other researchers have been finding when they look closely at this question. The practical upshot. If you're exercising and you're still having debilitating hot flashes, you haven't failed. The exercise is still doing real work for you in other ways. But for the hot flashes themselves, it may be worth having a direct conversation about other options. The Mind Body Green piece today is about a condition that mimics perimenopause so closely that it routinely gets missed. And the condition they're flagging is thyroid dysfunction, particularly hypothyroidism. Let me just run through the symptom overlap because it is genuinely striking. Hypothyroidism can cause fatigue, brain fog, mood changes, sleep problems, weight changes, temperature sensitivity, irregular periods, and low libido. That is almost a word-for-word list of common perimenopause complaints. And the typical age of onset for thyroid problems in women skews towards midlife, right in the perimenopause window. So a woman walks into her doctor's office at 46 feeling exhausted, foggy, cold, emotionally off, and her cycle is shifting. The most obvious narrative is perimenopause. And it might be right, but it might not be. The frustrating thing is that distinguishing between the two isn't complicated. A TSH test, thyroid stimulating hormone, is a standard blood panel item. It's not exotic, it's not expensive, it's not hard to order. And yet, thyroid issues are consistently underdiagnosed in midlife women, partly because the symptoms get attributed to hormonal transition without anyone running the blood work first. This is a medical system problem as much as anything else. When a woman over 45 presents with fatigue and mood changes, perimenopause is a reasonable first thought. But it shouldn't be the only thought, and it shouldn't close the diagnostic loop before basic workup has happened. Thyroid disease is also treatable. Levothyroxine is one of the most commonly prescribed medications in the world, and women who have been struggling with hypothyroid symptoms for years, thinking it was just menopause, deserve to know that what they're dealing with has a name and a treatment. The Mind Body Green framing is a little wellnessy, as you'd expect from that outlet, and I'd always want primary sources for the specific prevalence claims. But the underlying point is clinically solid and genuinely worth raising. If you've had your hormones checked and the picture doesn't quite fit, or if you're on HRT and still not feeling right, thyroid function is a reasonable next question. Word count, approximately 1,280 spoken words.
Thanks for listening to Hot Flasher. We're back tomorrow with more, so don't forget to subscribe. See you tomorrow.